Welcome to the Masterclass for mixing dubstep as a beginner DJ. In this video, we will cover the best techniques to mix dubstep music as well as rhythm. We hope you enjoy the video. Now let's get rolling.
So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to mix dubstep. This is just going to be a quick tutorial. I'm going to show you kind of like where you can mix in dubstep, other dubstep tracks into some dubstep tracks, usually where I mix them from, and all these different techniques that I've been using in the past. I'm also going to be making some dubstep mixes in a bit. The track that we're going to be using today, the one that is going to be the first track, is going to be Hydrate by Olivers, and this is going to be on deck B. And then I'm going to be using, for the track that I'm going to be mixing in, it's going to be Space Race Blast. It's a free download, so you guys should check out those tracks if you guys want to follow along with this tutorial. So they're both at 145 BPM. So dubstep music, traditionally, it doesn't have like a beat intro. It usually has some sort of kind of like sub, and then it leads into maybe some sort of like sound effects every few beats. So it's not the traditional kind of house music that you'd be mixing usually. It has a sort of kind of different structure. And the good thing about that is that you can mix it in different parts of the song, unlike house music where you have to mix it in either at the beginning of the drop, midway through, or during the end, before the break starts. So dubstep kind of gives you a bit more freedom for the mixing style and technique, so it's kind of nice. So yeah, so I'll just be starting the first track from the build-up, and I'll be mixing in the second track into it. I'll be showing you two places where you can mix dubstep music into a second track into. So yeah, so for the first track, the drop starts, I think around here is when it hits, the vocal plays, and then right around here is when the drop starts. And then as you can see, it moves along, and then there's a small break right here that shows kind of like after 8 bars, 8 beats of the drop, it's gonna do a small sort of continuation. It kind of shows that the track is progressing, and then it in most cases it adds a sort of like element, either like a new snare or some sort of new cymbal or hi-hat, and then it continues the drop. So the first time we're gonna be mixing in the second track right here after this kind of small break. Because this track is a bit different, it's not like house music, this part right here is another build up into like the second drop of the first drop, if it makes sense. Yeah, we'll be mixing it in from there, and then if we want to let the drop play out longer, we're gonna continue, let the drop play out of the first track, and then right around this part is where it's kind of like the outro of the first drop. So the drop, like the main drop, is here, and then this is kind of leading out. This is usually put into place to allow you to mix in the second track. It's a good kind of simple beat, and then it continues, and then over here, as you can see, or my bad, sorry. So right here, the small little part is kind of like the outro of the first drop, where it's a simple beat and allows you to mix in the second track. For the second technique, we're going to be just using this. As you can see, it's pretty much in line right now as we would be mixing it. Somewhere along the lines of this is where I'd start mixing it in. See that pretty much all I have to do is simply when this part hits, I just have to align the play, and that's it. And there's not much to it. Even if it's slightly off, by the end, when it's here, there's going to be this kind of decreasing, kind of like, I don't know what to call it, but a whoosh down, I guess. But here it'll be building up. So in either way, you can filter out this track, or you can spin out or do some sort of transition, and it'll smoothly lead into the second track. Let's start with the very first one, where I start mixing it in over here. So yeah, basically you guys get the gist of that. That was just mixing in just 1 or 8 beats into the first drop. So let's go back ahead. I'll just be mixing it in from the kind of continuation of the drop over here. So what you guys heard basically was first 8 beats of the drop of this track. I started mixing in this track. It transitioned in nicely with kind of a sub impact and then a reverse sub impact into the sort of intro vocal of the second track, and that fit up nicely because it is the same BPM, the same key, so the vocals didn't clash with each other because the intro vocals on top really fit well with the drop in the first track beneath, so it really, you know, created a nice transition. And then you can use the build up in the first drop to kind of lead into the hype of continuing the intro where the drums kind of get a lot heavier. That was the very first technique. So let's continue on with the second one where I'll be mixing it in to the outro of the first drop in that first track. So yeah, that was mixing it into the outro of the drop of the first track. As you can hear, that transitioned pretty nicely. It was, you know, people knew that it was kind of the end of the drop of the first track, and so it transitioned nicely into the intro and then build up of the second track. So yeah, hopefully you guys learned how to mix dubstep music. I know this isn't the only 2 methods. There's so many other methods that can be used for dubstep because it is so versatile, and you know, it allows you to use different techniques and just be really creative with it because it's structured so differently. Yeah, but if you guys enjoyed this tutorial, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment. Let me know what kind of other tutorials you guys want me to do, and peace. I'll see you guys in the next video. Now in this tutorial, I'm going to be teaching you guys how to rhythm chop with dubstep music, with rhythm music, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to be teaching you basically the whole technique behind it, what you want to be looking for, what kind of rhythm you want to be getting, and just kind of letting you guys see what it's like to mix the kind of music so you guys can do it on your own. Before we get into this tutorial, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, comment. If you guys want one-on-one DJ lessons with me, make sure you check the link down below and book a time with me. Without further ado, let's get right into this video. The 2 tracks that I'm going to be using, one is Phase 1 Insanity, and the other one is Datsik and Virtual Riot Warriors of the Night. Yeah, so just the original. Now, the Datsik track is at 150 BPM, and the Phase 1 track is at 75 BPM. So, mixing it, we wouldn't have to change the BPM because 150 and 75 work perfectly with each other. The same would go for like 70 and 140, or 75 and 150, 80 and 160. So it's just the half time and the double time of whatever you're mixing. So anyways, we have the 2 tracks ready. So I'm going to be going from the build-up of the Datsik and Virtual Riot and basically aligning the build-ups of the Phase 1 Insanity, mixing it, and then starting to rhythm chop in the drop. So I have my cue points set at the build-ups. If you guys haven't checked out my video on where to set cue points, make sure to check it out either up in the corner or down in the description. But check that video out. I teach you guys all about where to set your cue points for different kind of tracks. But, so I have my cue points set at whatever points I need it to be at. And so I have my cue set at the build-up. And this is what the drop sounds like. And then, so I'm also going to be using the Virtual Riot track, which it sounds like this. Yeah, so you guys get the gist. Alright, so I'm going to show you guys quickly one time, then I'm going to go over it another time, and then we're just going to be talking the technique and those sorts of things. So let's get right into this. So
his name when he wades into battle. The ninja works inside. Warriors of the night.
that was pretty much the method. What you guys saw me do there was just kind of a little bit of creative rhythm chopping. All you basically do is you have the two tracks aligned, and so while they're playing, you literally just swap the volume faders. So the technique behind it is obviously having them aligned, having them both start at the drop, so you know both of the drops are playing at the exact same time. Have them both at the same BPM so that one track isn't going faster or slower than the other, so that they're both on time. And then also having the two tracks have a similar rhythm and a similar key obviously to them, and just kind of similar sounding. So you don't want to have two tracks at two different keys, or one that is, let's say, more of a melodic dubstep versus a rhythm. You can't really mix those together, it won't sound great. You need to have two tracks that kind of have the same vibe to it. So these are two perfect examples. Any artists that are like Phase 1, Virtual Riot, those kinds of artists, those are super great, and they put out kind of the same sort of dubstep rhythm tracks. You can find a lot of their music on Disciple Records, so if you guys want to check out more music like that, check out Disciple Records on YouTube or SoundCloud or Spotify, wherever you are. But yeah, so basically what I'm doing is I'm just mixing one beat sections of each of the tracks. So I let one beat play of my Phase 1 Insanity track, and then for the next beat over, so after the kick hits, I switch it to the Virtual Riot track, and then I switch back and keep on doing that for basically how long I want. I could go double time, but those are for, you know, different sounding tracks, ones that maybe have a little bit of a faster rhythm to it. It's great to have some moments, so where the 4-bar fills are usually, so after eight bars of the drop, there's usually a 4-beat fill, and you want to kind of choose either one or the other track to play kind of that fill, so you don't go from different vocals. So there is kind of a bit of a technique to it. So just an example of what that would look like is kind of
where the ninja had been, there was darkness.
So as you guys heard, that kind of vocal, if I was mixing, he would have said like in the ninja, and then it would switch to some sort of like sound or, you know, snare, and it wouldn't sound really good. So you got to make sure that you're mixing only in those 8 bars of the drop, and then in the next 8 bars if you want to continue at that point. I'm just going to be talking over the whole process with you guys. I'm going to turn it down a bit softer, but we're just going to be going over what the whole technique is like and what's going on in my head while I'm doing it. So obviously when I'm starting to cue the second track in the build-up, I have it set to a cue point, which is at the build-up, and then I have my headphones ready. I have my cue set to channel 1 so I can hear the second track coming in.
Ninja works. Warriors of the night.
Alright, so that was kind of the whole kind of gist behind it. It literally just takes practice and practicing the rhythm. You have to be very confident in your ability to switch the volume faders. So you can't be kind of like sliding them up and down. You really have to be getting the timing right and flipping them at the right times, because if you still have a bit of a track playing when you're kind of putting down the volume fader, it's not going to sound great. You have to be really confident and certain in your whole rhythm chopping routine, just because, you know, it's such a precise kind of technique that you're going to be using, and because your window of switching the beats is so small, because you have to switch it right before that next kick hits, because if you're a little bit late, you're gonna switch it after the kick, and it's just gonna sound like there's no punch to it. You're gonna be messing up the rhythm of the track, and it's just gonna be a little bit off. So you have to really make sure that you're switching it really confidently and really quickly and getting it aligned to the beat, so that once the beat hits, you're waiting for maybe 75% of that one beat, and you're already switching into the next one, because you want to stay on track, on tempo, keep the rhythm going, and not miss any beats. So this is really like the whole idea behind it. So having tracks that work together, they're at the same BPM, just being creative with your rhythm chopping, but also being really confident in your ability to switch the volume faders and have a rhythm going. So those are the main things behind this whole kind of idea. I'll leave the link to the tracks down below so you guys can check them out. You guys can practice with these tracks as well. If you guys want more tutorials on rhythm chopping or something more in depth or different kind of tracks, make sure you guys leave a comment down below. Again, if you want one-on-one DJing lessons with me, make sure to check out the link below and book a time with me. But other than that, like, subscribe, share, comment, and can't wait for you guys to see the rest of the tutorials and all the other tutorials that I have coming out in the coming weeks and months for you guys. But yeah, make sure you guys leave a comment on, you know, what kind of music or what kind of tutorials you guys want to see next. But yeah, peace. Now in this video, we're going to be talking about how to drop mix dubstep music. So the two tracks that I'm going to be using to show you this technique are Peekaboo and G-Rex Bubba Tunda. Yeah, Bubba Tunda, and then it's the Tynan remix, and then the second one is Bad Rapper and Avance Mild Drugs. So they're both at 145 BPM, which means that don't have to do anything to adjust the pitch, tempo. We can start mixing right away. Now I have my cue points set for all my tracks, so all my hot cues are full and they're at, you know, where they need to be for drop mixing. So if you guys haven't checked out my video on where to set hot cues for drop mixing, make sure to check it out either in the corner or down in the description. Check out that video, find out where to actually set your hot cues, and either set your hot cues just for mixing or for drop mixing in specific. So I'm going to be starting from the sort of build up from one track. So I'm going to be going from Peekaboo and G-Rex to the Bad Rapper Mild Drugs track. And yeah, the whole technique basically that I'm going to be doing is gonna have the build up playing, and while the build up is starting, gonna be queuing up my second track, having both of the build ups kind of play together, because, you know, I'm gonna be beat matching them together. And then right when the drop hits, switch the two drops and give the crowd something, you know, unexpected with this whole mixing technique. So let's start with this first track. I'm just gonna filter it in, and I'm gonna show you guys once, and then we're gonna go from there. Now before we start the video, make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, comment, and if you guys want one-on-one DJing lessons with me, make sure to check out the link below in the description. But without further ado, let's get right into this. Yeah, so basically that was the whole idea behind it. So what I did there was I had the kind of break leading up into the build-up start playing on my first track, and then once I had the build-up start playing, I pressed the second track, they started playing together, and then I kind of started leading up my second track into the mix, so a little bit lightly so the crowd could hear that there's something coming up. You don't need to necessarily do this if you don't want to, but you know, if you want to kind of bring it up, see if it's beat matched, then that's a good idea. So either in your headphones you can hear it if it's beat matched, or if you want to kind of bring it up, have the two tracks playing, kind of raise the energy level a little bit, tease the crowd that there's something, you know, like coming into the mix. That's totally cool. Or if you just want to have one build up playing, beat match it in your headphones, so you know, not let it play out to the crowd, and then right when the drop comes, switch the two tracks. So I'll just show you that, guys, that right now. Yeah, so basically that was the idea behind it. So only one track played until I drop switched it. You don't need to, again, necessarily bring in the second track if you don't want to, but you can. It's up to your own preference. Kind of going over the whole idea as a whole, you want to make sure that you have your cue points set in order to be able to drop mix. Make it a lot easier for yourself. Then you want to have your timing properly, so you match up both of the build-ups together properly. Then once those are going and they're beat matched together, you want to have the right timing in order to actually successfully carry out a drop switch. So you want to know where to actually drop switch it from. So it's after 4 beats. So after that 4 beat fill, right in between the build-up and the drop, in that point you want to wait 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you switch it. So counting to a beat of 4 and then switching it really fast. So having confidence in the right moment where you need to drop switch and switching it, because timing is pretty much everything in these sorts of techniques, where you want to have your volume faders switch at a rapid pace so that one track isn't dragging out longer than the other, you know, because then it'll sound terrible. And also you want to actually switch it at the right moment, because if you do it too slowly or too quickly, you'll either miss the beat or you'll, you know, mash the two tracks together and, you know, it won't sound good in your mix. That being said, this is basically the whole technique behind this. So if you guys want to practice this on your own, I highly encourage you guys to check out the two tracks that I'm using today and try it out for yourself. You guys can use any dubstep track that you want, yeah, learn to set your cue points and do all those sorts of things, and then just have fun with drop mixing. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe, share. If you guys want one-on-one DJing lessons with me, make sure you check the link out in the description or in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.